You've probably heard this one before. People don't change, they just show who they really are. Now that's a spicy little truth bomb, isn't it? But is it true? Do people really reveal themselves, or are we just really bad at paying attention? I've got to say, I don't fully agree, because most of us, we walk around half asleep missing the obvious clues. People are showing us who they are all the time. We just don't recognize the signals. Welcome, my dear friends, to another walk through the garden of aging wisdom, right here on Buddhist Wisdom for the Elderly. Today, we're unpacking 4 everyday behaviors that quietly expose someone's character. And one final insight, part 2, is the one that will shift how you see people forever. Because once you understand how someone treats the janitor, you understand how they value others, and maybe how they value you. Stick around, because these lessons are hiding in plain sight. And if you'd like more little awakenings like this, click like and subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and keep the Dharma flowing for wise souls like you. Now, take a breath. Let's begin. Part 1. Keeping promises. Why your word is a sacred thing and not just for Boy Scouts. There's something kind of holy about a promise. I don't mean the big dramatic kind, like proposing on a mountaintop or swearing allegiance to a flag while fireworks go off. I mean the small, quiet ones. The I'll call you Tuesday kind. The I'll be there at 10 kind. The don't worry, I'll take care of it kind. The kind of promise that slips out of the mouth casually and yet holds a surprising amount of spiritual weight. Because here's the truth. If you want to know someone's inner architecture, how sturdy their soul really is, watch what they do after they say they'll do something. Now, you and I both know that people love to talk a big game. Oh, I'll be there for you no matter what. I'll get that done tomorrow. This time I'm serious. I'm finally going to quit sugar. And then, crickets. Why? Because talk is cheap. You can dress it up in sincerity, sprinkle on some charisma, and people will buy it. But following through, that's the real currency of character. That's where the ego either steps aside or gets exposed. Buddhism teaches us that intention is the seed, but action is the flowering of that seed. And if your actions don't match your words, then you've planted a spiritual weed, not a flower. Let's talk a little Dharma. In Buddhist ethics, there's a practice called satya, truthfulness. Not just truth in what you say, but truth in how you live. Keeping a promise in that light becomes a practice of aligning your speech, your mind, and your behavior. In other words, you're being congruent. You're walking the walk. And when you don't keep your word, you're not just disappointing someone else. You're training your own mind to mistrust itself. That's the part most people miss. Every time you flake on a commitment, your own heart hears it. It whispers, maybe I'm not dependable. Maybe my words don't matter. And that, my friend, is spiritual erosion. Let me tell you a story. It's about an old guy named Frank. Frank was in his late 70s, and he volunteered at his local Methodist church in Kansas. Not because he was particularly religious, he just liked keeping the bulletin board up to date. Said it gave him purpose. Every Sunday morning, rain or shine, Frank showed up at 6:30 a.m. to tack up the week's quotes and announcements. Nobody really noticed. It was just one Sunday, the new pastor, fresh from seminary, showed up early and found Frank already there, pinning up a little handwritten note that said, "You are what you follow through on." The pastor chuckled and asked, "Where'd you get that one, Frank?" Frank shrugged and said, "My dad used to say it before every fishing trip. Didn't matter if it was fishing or fixing a fence, you keep your word or you keep your mouth shut." Now, that's some Midwest enlightenment right there. Frank never gave a sermon, never led a meditation group, but I'd trust his word over half the gurus with 6 books and a podcast. Here's where the real test lies. It's easy to keep a promise when it's convenient, when it's fun, when there's something in it for you. But when you're tired, when it's raining, when you'd rather stay in your warm bed with tea and reruns of Columbo. That's when the rubber meets the road. You said you'd visit your neighbor in the hospital. You said you'd help your daughter move that heavy box of garage junk. Do you show up anyway? Because the ego will make 1,000 excuses. But the soul remembers. In Buddhism, karma isn't some cosmic slap on the wrist. It's simply the law of cause and effect. When you break promises, you're not being punished. You're just reaping the natural consequence. A life built on shaky ground. People don't trust you. More importantly, you don't trust you. But when you keep your word, especially when it's hard, your inner life starts to feel solid, grounded, trustworthy. You become like a good old oak tree, roots deep, presence steady, and people feel that. They relax around you. They know you mean what you say. You become the person others can count on, not because you're loud or forceful, but because your actions line up with your essence. Ah yes, here we are again, the inner mirror. Because let's be honest, some of the hardest promises to keep are the ones we make to ourselves. I'm going to walk every morning. I won't let my phone eat my whole day again. I'll finally finish that memoir. Keeping these promises builds a quiet kind of dignity, and breaking them, especially repeatedly, chips away at our own trust in ourselves. It's okay to falter, but don't let faltering become forgetting. As Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home, and that includes yourself. So next time you make a promise, even a small one, try thinking of it not as a burden, but as a blessing, a sacred little handshake with the universe. And when you keep it, you're not just proving something to someone else. You're telling your own soul, I am someone who can be trusted, even by me. That, my friend, is what spiritual maturity looks like. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's the quiet beauty of showing up when it matters and when it's hard. Part 2. Want to see who someone really is? Watch how they treat the janitor with a little help from Carl and the Buddha. Let me save you a whole lot of confusion, therapy bills, and awkward dinner parties. If you want to know who someone really is, skip the resume. Forget the charm. Don't ask what they do, what they drive, or how many grandkids they have. Just take them out to lunch. Pick someplace simple, a quiet little diner, a place with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress named Mary who's been there since the Nixon administration. Then just watch. Do they smile at Mary? Thank her? Look her in the eye? Or do they tap their fork impatiently when the coffee refills take a little too long? That's it. That's the whole test. You don't need a guru, just someone to bring the fries. You see, the Buddha had a lot to say about right conduct, sila, in Pali. And he didn't mean be nice to your friends or treat your boss with respect so you don't get fired. No, he meant something more radical. Sila is about how you treat all beings, especially when no one's watching. It's about living with awareness and compassion, not just when it's easy, but when it's boring, inconvenient, or just plain unnoticed. And in case you're wondering, yes, the way you treat the janitor is a direct reflection of your spiritual development. That's not me being dramatic, that's the Buddha talking. Let me tell you about Carl. Carl was the maintenance guy at a retirement home in Iowa. Big guy, red flannel shirts, drank his coffee black, and didn't care for small talk. Worked quietly, fixed broken things, and never asked for credit. Most of the staff barely noticed him. He was just the guy with the wrench. Until one year, a tornado knocked out the power. Total blackout. The residents, most of them in their 80s and 90s, were stuck in their rooms. Some were scared. Some needed oxygen. The emergency systems weren't working. Guess who stayed overnight? Carl. He brought people blankets, climbed stairs carrying flashlights and warm meals, checked in on everyone. And in the morning, after the storm passed, while others were congratulating themselves on their leadership, Carl was quietly tightening the bolts on a loose railing near the south stairwell. No one asked him to. He just did it. Now tell me, who was more enlightened in that building that night? The guy with the master's degree? Or Carl, the humble bodhisattva in work boots. Here's the punchline Buddhism doesn't always spell out, but Ram Dass loved to whisper. You don't need to sit on a cushion for 10 hours a day to wake up. You just need to be present, kind, humble. And what better place to practice than in real life? At the pharmacy, when the line is long and the cashier looks overwhelmed. At the grocery store, when the teenage bagger is moving a little slow because he's still figuring out how to be human. Or when your Uber driver takes the wrong turn and apologizes like he just ran over your dog. That's the field. That's the monastery. Now let's be honest, the ego? Oh, it loves status. It wants to be seen talking to the doctor, the lawyer, the yoga teacher who also sells essential oils. But the soul? The soul doesn't care about status. The soul just wants to connect, to love, to bow. The Buddha wasn't interested in celebrity. He was interested in presence. He bowed to life itself, the same life that shows up in the janitor's breath, the dishwasher's aching back, the clerk's tired smile. So when you treat someone with no power like they matter, you're not just being nice, you're practicing Dharma. You're awakening. You're dismantling the illusion that we're separate. Okay, now for the part no one loves but everyone needs. How do you treat people who can't do anything for you? The cleaning staff, the server, the guy picking up trash at the park. This isn't about guilt, it's about wakefulness. Can you look at someone who's invisible to the world and see them? Can you bow, not physically, but with your attention, your care, your warmth? Because the moment you do, something miraculous happens. Your heart expands. And as the old saying goes, when the heart expands, the mind follows. Sometimes wisdom wears coveralls and drinks Folgers from a chipped mug. Sometimes enlightenment smells like Windex. So if you're looking for the real spiritual heroes of our time, don't just scan the meditation retreats and podcast circuits. Look for the Carls, the Marys, the ones doing the invisible work with visible grace. And the next time someone asks you how to tell if someone's a good person, you tell them this. Take them out to lunch and see how they treat the waitress. Part 3. Watch them in the clinic waiting room. That's their real meditation practice. Now, you might think you know someone's character based on how they talk about world peace, or how many spiritual books are stacked next to their recliner, or how often they slip mindfulness into conversation. But I'll tell you what, none of that matters as much as how they behave when their name hasn't been called after 40 minutes at the walk-in clinic. You want to see someone's spiritual path in action? Don't ask about their daily meditation. Watch them when they don't get their way. There's nothing like a crowded waiting room, flu season in full swing, daytime TV playing way too loud, some poor receptionist trying to stay sane, as a spiritual classroom. The Buddha never promised us comfort. He never said life was going to go according to plan. In fact, he taught the opposite. Everything is impermanent. So when someone's tapping their foot, sighing loudly, complaining about how long it's taking, guess what? They're having a conversation with their own suffering. The clinic is just the stage, but someone who can breathe through the delay, maybe even crack a joke, or offer their chair to someone wobblier than they are, that person? They're working from a different place. That's not just patience, that's upekkha, equanimity, the quiet strength that says, I don't love this moment, but I don't need to hate it either. We'll keep our dear friend Ruth in here, because her story still sings. Ruth, 83, arthritis in both knees, lived on the 6th floor of an apartment building in Minneapolis. One morning, the elevator broke. Her neighbors went into full meltdown. Phones out, complaints flying. You'd think the world was ending. But Ruth, she sat in the lobby with a little bag of cookies and a worn paperback copy of The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching. When someone asked, "Aren't you upset?" she smiled and said, "Well, the elevator is broken. I'm not." That's someone who's learned to stop fighting what is. That's wisdom in Velcro shoes. Here's a fun reframe. Next time you're waiting to be called, blood test, physical, follow up on that thing you can't quite pronounce. Don't think of it as wasted time. Think of it as a little pop-up zendo. The TV is your background mantra. The chatter is your bell of mindfulness. The delay, that's the universe saying, here's your practice. Instead of, why is this taking so long? Try, how can I be present with this? It changes everything. And if you happen to overhear someone complaining nonstop, well, that's a free Dharma talk on the suffering of attachment. Buddhism doesn't ask us to renounce the world. It asks us to wake up within the world. That means the hospital lobby matters as much as the meditation cushion. Maybe more. The question isn't, how spiritual are you when you're alone and everything's quiet? It's how spiritual are you when the nurse is running late, the vending machine ate your dollar, and the guy next to you is coughing without covering his mouth. That's where practice becomes real. So how does this relate to seeing someone's true character? Simple. Watch what someone does with discomfort, with waiting, with not being in control. Do they spiral into complaint and control? Or can they ride the wave with a little grace, maybe even a sense of humor? Because the person who can sit in the clinic waiting room with patience, warmth, and a soft gaze, that person's probably kind to themselves too. So, next time you want to know who someone really is, don't ask about their beliefs. Sit with them in a waiting room and watch how they treat the moment. If they can sit there peacefully, maybe even share a smile with the nurse behind the desk, well, that's probably someone worth keeping in your orbit. Part 4. You want to know someone's heart? Listen to how they talk about other people when they're not in the room. Here's a little secret about human beings that's both hilarious and heartbreaking. We reveal more about ourselves when we talk about others than when we talk about ourselves. It's true. The way someone describes their neighbor, their ex, their boss, or even that stranger at the grocery store says more about their own inner weather than it does about the actual people they're describing. So if you want to understand someone's real spiritual state, listen closely when they speak about others who aren't there to defend themselves. That's the mirror. That's the X-ray. That's the Dharma bell ringing. Ding, character check. Let's just admit it, gossip has a certain flavor. It's spicy, it's dramatic, it lights up the ego like a pinball machine. Oh, you wouldn't believe what she did. He always does that thing where she said, what about her own sister? In Buddhist terms, this is wrong speech, musavada. It's one of the 5 precepts, and it doesn't just refer to lying. It includes gossip, backbiting, and speaking in ways that divide instead of connect. And yet, we do it. Why? Because talking about someone else's flaws temporarily makes our ego feel inflated. It's a sugar rush of superiority. But as any elder with a bit of spiritual seasoning knows, the crash always comes. There's a story I love, completely made up, but spiritually accurate. 2 old friends are sitting on a bench at the edge of their neighborhood community garden. Tomatoes growing behind them, a few bees buzzing around, air thick with the scent of basil and sun-warmed soil. First man says, "You see Dave over there? Can't trust that guy. Always talking big, never follows through." Second man smiles and says, "Funny, that's what people say about you." First man chuckles awkwardly. "Well, I guess I'd know it when I see it." Boom, projection. We project what we fear or reject in ourselves onto others, then pretend it has nothing to do with us. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's unconscious. But it's a fantastic way to tell what someone's wrestling with internally. Because if all someone does is point out how selfish, lazy, arrogant, or fake everyone else is, well, as my grandmother used to say, if everyone around you is the problem, sweetheart, maybe it's time to look in the mirror. Buddha taught that speech should pass through 3 gates before it leaves the mouth. 1. Is it true? 2. Is it necessary? 3. Is it kind? If it doesn't pass all 3, maybe it doesn't need to be said. Now, that doesn't mean we should never speak about injustice or dishonesty. It just means we should watch our tone. Ask ourselves, am I saying this to connect or to condemn? Big difference. The tongue can be a bridge or a blade. And let's be honest, a lot of what we say about others is just a sneaky way to avoid our own inner work. There's a quiet shift that happens as you age. Maybe you've noticed it. You stop needing to have an opinion about everyone. You stop inserting your commentary into every little family squabble or bit of gossip at bridge club. You start to realize that judgment is heavy, and you'd rather travel light. You begin to notice that some people seem to grow more bitter with age, not because life got harder, but because they kept feeding resentment like it was a stray cat that moved in. Others? They grow softer, funnier, lighter. What's the difference? How they talk about others, especially when no one's listening. Try this. For one day, just one. Make a conscious effort not to say a single negative thing about anyone who isn't in the room. Not even a bless her heart. Just pause. Feel the words forming and let them dissolve. You'll feel it. That little gap, that moment of stillness, that's liberation. A small but powerful freedom. And if someone around you is gossiping, you don't have to shame them or give a lecture. Just smile. Say something kind about the person they're tearing down. That's a quiet form of spiritual leadership. So what does all this tell you about someone's inner world? Simple. If they're constantly tearing others down when they're not around, what do you think they're saying about you when you leave the room? But if they speak kindly, generously, even when no one's looking, that's someone who's tending to their inner garden. That's someone who's made peace with themselves. And people who are at peace with themselves, they make damn good company. So, what did we learn today, really? Not the kind of thing you write down on a whiteboard, but the kind you carry in your chest pocket for the next time life throws you a character test. We learned that people reveal themselves in the small stuff, the promises they keep, the way they treat the janitor, how they handle long waits and small frustrations. And yes, how they speak when no one's listening. These aren't just behaviors, they're soul signals. And the beauty is, you don't need a PhD in psychology to notice them. You just need a little awareness and a little compassion. So if this video made you smile, nod, or quietly rethink someone in your life, go ahead and like it, share it, or drop a comment below. We'd love to hear what signs you've noticed in people. And if you haven't already, subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers so we can keep sharing Buddhist wisdom for the elderly and for the young at heart. Thanks for being here. Now go out there and watch for the mop. It might just be holding a mirror.